have only hoped for the kind of growth Narratrix of Nightmares has seen in the last week. Thank you for all of you who've joined. Thank you for stepping through the dark with me. You listened, you stayed, and now you're a part of it. Tonight's story is dedicated to you, the brave, the curious, the ones who dare to lean in when most would look away. The room is ready. The chair is waiting. Welcome back to therapy. They say the mind can protect itself from things it cannot comprehend. I wonder if that's what happened to me, whether what I experienced was too vast, too alien, to ever fit inside something as soft and warm as a human mind. I had seen a lot of strange things in therapy, and even stranger people, but I wasn't prepared for Mr. Elric. He didn't show up in the system. No referral trail, no contact details, no payment method on file. Just a name, scrawled across the paper diary in the old reception book we hadn't used in years. Elric, 4 p.m, room 9. But we didn't have a room 9. We had 8. I checked again. The ink was fresh. The name had been added in handwriting I couldn't recognize. Still, something in me, curiosity, pride, or something more primal, pushed me to wait. At 4:02 p.m, the front door clicked open. I hadn't heard footsteps on the gravel. A tall man in a black coat stepped into the foyer. His skin was greyish, like the colour of ash caught in moonlight. He had eyes like polished onyx, reflective but hollow. And when he spoke, it was quiet, but his voice echoed faintly in my skull. Room 9, please. I nodded before I realised I had, and I pointed to the corridor, not to one of the offices, but to a space at the far end that, until today, had always been a supply closet. He walked slowly, the way people do when they already know the layout of a place. And as he opened the supply door, it wasn't shelves I saw. It was a dim, wood-panelled room lit by a single lamp. There was a chair, a sofa, and the smell of old parchment. I followed him in, trying to convince myself this was some trick of light. Maybe an old room I'd forgotten about, repurposed years ago. I closed the door. The air went still. Please, he said, gesturing to the armchair. He sat opposite, crossing one leg over the other with precise, almost mechanical grace, and we began. I reached for my pen to write something down, anything to restore the rhythm of professionalism. But he raised a finger. Please, I don't want notes taken. Not yet. I froze. Not because I agreed, but because the tone wasn't a request. It was anticipatory, like he was waiting for something or someone. All right, I said, setting the pen down. Let's talk then. He nodded slowly. It's about what I remember. Or maybe what I'm remembering again. He looked up at the ceiling as though searching through plaster and pipework. There's a place, he said. A room. I used to be in it often when I was small. My parents said I had an active imagination, but they were wrong. It wasn't imaginary. It was interstitial. Interstitial? Between, not quite here, not quite somewhere else. Room 9, that's what I called it. No windows. One door, beige carpet with a pattern that moves if you look too long. Something is always ticking in the walls. I didn't interrupt. His tone was shifting. Less like a man trying to describe a memory, more like a man trying not to remember something too well. He leaned forward, and for the first time, I noticed the faintest tremble in his hands. I could be anywhere, he said. In class, in bed, and then I'd blink and I was back there, room 9. And the worst part is, it never looked threatening. It looked like an office, or sometimes a doctor's waiting room. It even smelled neutral. But the light, that fluorescent hum, it wasn't from any fixture I could see. It came from the walls. I felt a sudden itch at the base of my spine. He continued. At first, I thought it was just some deep memory, trauma, but then I met others. Others? He nodded. People who remembered room 9 too, only they didn't call it that. One woman called it the holding place, another called it the before. A man, the last one I spoke to, called it the archive. And where are these people now? His lips curled in the first smile I'd seen, but it wasn't pleasant. They're gone, he simply said. Every last one. They're gone, he repeated, quieter now. One disappeared mid-sentence on a video call. Another left a voicemail where she just kept repeating, I didn't knock, over and over until the recording cut out. I waited, heartbeat slowing as if my body knew something I didn't. He leaned back. I started writing about it, forums, blogs, Reddit, but the replies were strange. Not responses really, just timestamps, strings of numbers, sometimes just a period. One reply had my full name and home address in it from an account that deleted itself 2 minutes later. At this point, I made a small note, not on paper, just a mental one. Paranoia with delusional content, rule out schizophrenia. But even as I filed the thought away, another part of me, a deeper, more instinctual part, whispered that he wasn't delusional. He was remembering something real, or at least real to him, in a way that I wasn't ready to challenge. He watched me in silence for a moment. You're hearing the ticking, aren't you? He asked. I opened my mouth to ask what ticking, but stopped, because I did hear something, barely there, like the staccato of a wall clock, only not quite a clock. The rhythm was just off enough to unsettle the ear, organic almost, like an animal mimicking time. I turned my head slightly. It stopped. When I looked back at him, his expression hadn't changed. I think we can pause here for today, I said carefully. He didn't move. I don't think that would help, he replied, almost politely. You're already in it. In what? Room 9. It's not just a place, Doctor. It's a state, a threshold. and you crossed it when I started talking. The air between us felt denser now, like something was pressing in from all sides. I looked at the clock on the wall behind him, one I'd stared at every session since I opened this practice, and the second hand was gone. Not stopped, gone. You brought this in with you, I said, my voice tighter than I meant. No, he said softly. You answered the door. I forced a chuckle, a reflex, a thin shield. You're not the first client to speak in metaphors, I said. Room 9, thresholds. It's interesting imagery. Tell me more about what you associate with it. He smiled then, not in amusement but in recognition, like I'd said exactly what he'd expected, like he'd written this scene in advance. You don't remember, do you? My stomach dropped. Remember what? I came to you before, he said. Not like this, not in flesh and voice, but you know that feeling when you're walking alone at night and you think you hear someone call your name? Not loud, just enough to make your spine straighten. His voice grew quieter. That's when I first reached you, and you turned toward the voice. Most people don't. Most people keep walking. I felt my mouth go dry. He leaned forward slightly. You heard me. That's why I found you. You're implying I, invited this? No. You noticed it. And noticing is the same as stepping through the door. He tilted his head. Do you know how long you've been sitting here? I glanced at the clock, still missing its second hand. The hour hand hadn't moved either. I reached for my phone, but it didn't respond. The screen stayed black, not dead, just off. I think we're done for today, I said again, firmer now. He didn't argue, didn't plead, just looked at me. Of course, he said. But when you dream tonight, and the room is grey and smells faintly of antiseptic, you'll know you're still here. My breath caught. The scent in the air had shifted, barely, but it was there. Sterile, clinical, hospitalic. I stood. You need to leave. He rose too, slow and calm. One more thing before I go, he said. In room 9, the therapist always speaks first, but the patient never forgets the rules. What rules? His smile returned, colder. Never ask what time it is, never check your pulse, and whatever you do, don't look in the mirror after I'm gone. Then he walked out, leaving the door wide open behind him. And I stayed frozen, pulse hammering, desperate not to look at the small standing mirror across the room, but already I could feel it humming, like it knew I would. I didn't sleep that night, not because I couldn't, but because something told me I shouldn't. I sat on the edge of the bed, the silence in my flat stretched tight as thread. I kept thinking of what he said before he left. He'd said, "You don't see the door yet, but you will. Once you do, it won't close again." Was it a metaphor? A psychotic metaphor maybe, but metaphor nonetheless, right? Around 3:40 a.m, I heard a soft knock on my bedroom wall. Not the door, the wall. I live alone. The sound wasn't repeated, but I didn't sleep either. I just stared at the space it came from, the plaster blank and cold in the bluish glow of the security light that shone through my curtain gaps. The next day I called in sick. I needed to prepare, or maybe just regroup. But even as I drank my coffee and tried to plan my day like a sane person, I couldn't stop glancing at the spot on the wall. At 2:17 p.m, a new email came in. No sender, just a subject line. Room 9 is now open. I froze. We don't have a room 9. Still, I clicked it open. There was only a single line of text inside. Go back. I couldn't tell if it was a threat or an invitation. I returned to the clinic just after 6. The building was technically closed, lights dimmed, corridors empty. Yet, as I approached my floor, the elevator dinged by itself and opened. Inside, someone had pressed the button for level 9. We only have 6 floors. I should have run, I didn't. My curiosity outweighed my fear. Or perhaps it was something else guiding me, something older, deeper. The elevator didn't stutter or groan. It moved smoothly and past the 6th floor, then past what should have been the roof. Then it stopped. Ding. Level 9. A voice whispered over the speaker, not the normal voice, something off, guttural, too close to the mic. The door opened to darkness. Not unlit, not the lights are off dark. This was a deeper black, like light couldn't survive here. Still, I stepped out, led by the soft echo of my own breath, and there it was, just a few feet in, a small plaque on a wooden door. Room 9. Inside, the walls were made of something that absorbed thought. No decor, no smell. And at the centre, 2 chairs. I sat in one. The door clicked behind me, and in the other chair, he was already sitting. The same man or something wearing his shape. His voice was lower now, not gravelled, wet. You brought them here, all of them. Their words, their fears. You fed the room. I didn't respond. I couldn't. My jaw locked. My breath felt stolen. You listened. You opened. You kept the door ajar. And now we listen. The walls began to hum with voices, my clients' voices, whispering, crying, confessing. Every session, every fear, not just echoes, memories. I recognized one, a suicidal teenager, one I'd worked with last year. Then another, a woman, a mother with postpartum psychosis. I told myself I'd moved them forward, helped. But here, their voices twisted. They weren't recounting their trauma. They were blaming me. The man leaned forward. They came here for help. You made them feel heard. That's all it needed. Room 9 was starving. He tilted his head just like before. Now it's full. And so are you. Something thick dripped from the ceiling, not blood, not water, memory maybe. My eyes burned. My ears pulsed. My mind began to fracture, slipping sideways. I screamed, I think. Or maybe the room did. And then black. I woke up in my office, daylight, clock ticking, files stacked. Had I dreamed it? Was it sleep deprivation? Psychosis? I opened my appointment calendar. One slot marked in red. Room 9, 6 p.m. No client name, no delete option. Only a countdown. I'm still here for now. But if you're listening to this, hear me. There is only one way to leave room 9 behind. It needs a listener. It needs someone to hear the tick. It needed someone else. And now, it has you. Thanks for subscribing, and if you haven't, please do, because things are only getting stranger from here. Thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.